Welcome back to Secret Weapons. My name is Mark Johnston. If this is your first time here, this is a YouTube channel where we do gear demos and reviews, as well as studio tips and tricks for leveling up your writing, playing, and production from the perspective of a guitar player working out of a studio. If that's the kind of thing that would appeal to you, please hit that subscribe button and stick around for future videos. And today we're taking a look at the Strymon Timeline MX. It's real. It's a real thing. It exists. If you follow the Anti-Zoya Zoya podcast with John, Andrew, and I at all, you might have caught an episode a few weeks back talking about the theoretical existence of the Timeline MX. And there's kind of broad consensus across us that a Mobius MX is going to be the most broadly utility useful of these releases, but that the Timeline MX was the one that I was the most excited for of the three options and the one that I wanted to see come to market the most. And here we are. The MX is out. And in this video, we are not going to do a every feature dive. I know, I'm sorry. I know that's kind of my bag, but the original Timeline's been out for so long. I have used it on the channel. Everyone has used one. So instead, what I want to talk about is what is specifically new with the hardware and software on the Timeline MX. So first things first, obviously we have the new interface. It is now laid out the way that the Big Sky MX was laid out, with the bigger screen with more information on it, the key parameter knobs being in the straight line now, and the mode and value knobs being in the top corners. Pretty straightforward. And much like with the Big Sky MX, you have your MIDI 5-pin, your expression, your stereo ins, your stereo outs, and your USB-C for firmware updates, as well as Nixie 2 editor support coming soon. Asterisk. We talked about this in the Big Sky video. Don't ever buy products based on promised future updates, but the Big Sky support did come. It just took longer than we thought it would. I trust that this support will come as well, but I don't know when we can expect it. However, despite the top row here looking a lot like the Big Skies, there is a crucial new thing, and that is all four of your ins and outs are now stereo TRS jacks. You can still use this in the conventional left in, left out configuration, or you can run left and right TRS into the left in, left and right TRS out of the right out. And using the right in and left out, you can actually set up a full stereo TRS driven effects loop to sit in between the two engines in this thing. Which, to editorialize for a second, I have been saying for years that I want more companies to utilize exactly this format. New Neighbors pedals have been doing this for years now. They give you all four ports for stereo in, stereo out, but they also give you the option to run TRS for single cable stereo if that works better for your workflow. This should be the industry standard. And under the hood, there is a lot of new now too. You obviously have upgraded processing. You can run any two engines at the same time, and the engine updates are myriad and impressive as well. You've got all the classics here, but what you might notice if you are like going through the modes on the website, you'll notice a few additions and a few subtractions, but nothing has been taken away. Around the side of the pedal, you now have the additions of drum, oil can, multitap, and spectral. These are all new modes for the Timeline MX. Drum is basically going to be Volante in this pedal, which is a huge deal to me as somebody who loves the Volante. You also have the oil can, so if you like the Oliveira from last year from Strymon, I have great news for you on that front. Multitap is almost like the drum head delay on steroids. You have multiple individual delay lines that can all each be given their own EQ, modulation, volume, subdivision, and placement in the stereo field. And there's like 8 of them, and then they can be oriented around an even time signature or an even spacing, odd spacing, triplets, 16ths, swung in subdivisions. It's astonishing how much stuff that multi-tap delay can do. And next to that, you have Spectral, which is basically a granular reverb in stereo with octaves, forward and reverse, control over the size of the grains from things that still feel broadly like delay, all the way down to those very shivery, skittery, granular effects that we all know and love. And when it comes to engines, you might be noticing that we are now missing both the ducking delay and the swell delay. And it's because they're not gone. Ducking and swell as parameters are now available on every single engine across the entire Timeline MX. So you can take your reverse delay or your ice kind of like pitched octave delay or your spectral delay, and you can now give those that ducking or that auto swell functionality. And we'll get into some stuff with the swell mode in this thing. It is amazing. I have some thoughts on it in the sound samples that I think that this is the best implementation of a swell effect of anything I've used. Spoilers. And there's also one additional delay added into this thing. You now have something that is not a delay, a dedicated reverb in the Timeline MX. And this is kind of broadly inspired by the Flint. It has a delay that goes from kind of short tile splash all the way out through big ambient room reverb, kind of into like hall territory, with speed and depth controlling a tremolo on the reverb. So this can, in effect, be your 2-in-1 delay and reverb. So if you didn't need 2 delays in your rig, I mean, 1, yes you do, but 2, you could also use this as your kind of key delay plus your reverb and potentially your tremolo as well. One of my gripes around the original Timeline, and indeed around a lot of Strymon's delay offerings over the years, has been what I would consider to be an over-reliance on the Haas effect. The idea that to create a wide stereo image from a single delay repeat, what you do is you take that repeat and then you double it, pan it hard left, hard right, and delay one of them by like 7 to 15 milliseconds. And it just takes this single image and it makes it feel very wide, which is a very simple way of creating stereo width, but it comes with a couple of trade-offs. One, I don't think it's that interesting. 2 is if you are using a rhythmic delay, like kind of that classic dotted A thing for rhythmic delay parts, think very U2 and Coldplay, that Haas effect, I actually think is a pretty ineffective way of using stereo widening in a delay because your guitar sits in the center channel and those repeats hit really hard left and right and always seem to be slightly louder on one side. All this makes for a pretty unsatisfying rhythmic delay in my opinion. Now don't get me wrong, Strymon has not done this for everything. The Dig is a great example of stereo width in a delay being implemented well, and that has been done across a lot of this. Modes in here like the dTape and the dBucket have been completely redesigned for MX modes while still including the classics, and you'll hear in the sound samples, classic dTape in the Timeline is still here. It still does that wide Haas-affected stereo thing, but most of the delays in here now derive their stereo image, unless they're a multitap or something else that kind of skitters across the image on purpose as part of the effect. Most of the delays now receive their stereo width from your modulation controls, allowing them to kind of drift and move across the stereo field, which, I don't know, for my money, for my kind of use cases, has always been the superior format. But speaking of stereo image on this thing, you can run delay line 1 into delay line 2, delay line 2 into delay line 1 in parallel, like kind of like on top of each other parallel, or hard left, hard right, all by kind of controlling the routing options. But if you don't want hard left, hard right, you can run them in parallel and independently pan each of the delays from center kind of progressively out on the sides. So if you don't want stereo width coming from modulation or the Haas effect, you can just set up 2 delays and kind of pan them progressively farther from the center to exactly the width that you want. There's a lot going on in here. And not only do you have all of that, but also the looper in here is 5 minutes, full stereo, and there is a mode where you can convert your tap tempo to be a 1-button looper instead, where instead of this being your tap, at any given time, you can press it to start recording a loop, tap it again to go into playback, tap it again to go into overdub, tap it again, and then press and hold to erase it. And just always can have that looper just waiting in the wings for whenever you might need it. Look, we were all waiting for this, and I am stoked that it's finally here. So let's get into our sound samples. We are not going to get exhaustive with the Timeline as a whole, like I said, but rather we are just going to go ahead and take a look at what is new, what is notable, and why I think the Timeline MX is a massive step forward for this format from Strymon. Let's give it a listen. So let's start things off by taking a look at the updated user interface here. Obviously, a lot of stuff is the same in terms of knob labeling, with just the knobs being reoriented on the pedal itself. But you now have this big screen right here, as well as the value knob being moved to the right side from its original position over here. And you of course also now have this bigger screen that was also on the updated Big Sky MX. This is basically a bunch of the same updates to the Big Sky MX with some additional hardware improvements. Across the bottom, you have the kind of mostly universal controls, things like time, repeats, the filter, the grit, your modulation bands, and your mix. Your value knob is going to move between presets on the device. You can press it once to enter into the engine-specific set of controls, which will vary depending on what engine you have pulled up. Press and hold to go back to the main menu, and press and hold for 3 seconds to enter global configurations. This is where you'll have access to things like configuring these input and output jacks, changing MIDI information, true bypass, level input, all that stuff. On the other side, you have your encoder knob. You can turn it to select between different engines, or you press it to move between the categories in the bottom left-hand side of this screen. Tapping it marquees from Engine 1 selection to Engine 1 subdivision choice. The routing configurations, right now we have the second engine turned off, but you can turn it on, run them in series. Tapping again will take you to Engine 2, allowing you to select whatever engine you want in this Engine 2 position. Let's go with a Reverb, and then press it again to go back to the front. And then you can also marquee through to that final position to change subdivisions separately of the two engines you are running. That second one, with something like Reverb, I tend to like to go all the way to the end where you have unlocked, which basically decouples the time of the reverb from the tap tempo on the side, because this tap tempo is going to impact your pre-delay on the reverb, which is not something I ever really want, and I'm not sure who does. So let's go ahead and jump back over, turn off that second engine for now so that we can kind of walk through, and let's select a dotted eighth for tap tempo. And let's go ahead and look at some of the new features and sounds in the Timeline MX, starting with a conversation about the nature of updated algorithms. So let's go ahead and jump to our dTape, the kind of classic Strymon delay tape sound. Tap the value knob to go down, and let's select from the MX to the classic voice. And what you'll have now is the original Timeline tape delay sound. So you should be able to hear a pretty familiar, let's go kind of knobs at noon for this. You should hear a pretty familiar sound here. This is very much that classic thing. And something you will have noticed when I was moving those knobs is now when you make changes, obviously we know that these Strymon algorithms, the modulation controls, the grit, and that filter, they do different things, even though these are broadly correct labels for categories, but engine to engine, they are different specific parameters. So in tape, now you will see that as you move that speed, it's actually the crinkle control, and the depth is going to be your wow and your flutter. Let's go ahead and take those down to minimum and make a jump over to the new MX voice. And the reason we are going to go ahead and take those out is because you'll notice we're no longer getting that Haas effect. For context, classic, MX. And you might be noticing, we're in mono now. Why are we in mono? And the reason for that is, rather than doing the Haas effect where one side of a stereo image is delayed, it's basically a mono image with a slight delay on one side to create stereo width. Now you can create that width by increasing your wow and your flutter. So here, as you increase your crinkle and your modulation, your delay is panning around your stereo image, not being Haas affected. And that actually means that you have control over how much width that delay has in general. Let's go full wet just to really kind of like highlight this. And I'm a big fan of this change because when I want that kind of classic dotted eighth sound, I can kind of find that you lose the rhythmic component. With that Haas effect, because your guitar is sitting dead center of the mix and your repeats are way off, hard left and hard right. But by going over to this kind of like panning delay where the audio kind of moves across the field, you aren't getting all of that kind of like center channel quiet with your delay. There are, of course, a couple trade-offs beyond that, including things like your grit is now going, or your filter is your tape age, which is the same. And your grit is now a record level, so driving into the record heads harder. Whereas in the classic mode, that is going to be bias instead. In both situations, you have your low-end contour for being able to kind of get that full, very big, heavy delay repeat. Or carve out some of that low end for a chirpier. Then you kind of give some age. And so the engines that have similar updates where you have an MX mode and a classic mode are going to operate in very much the same way. One other thing that you will notice going through that is the fact that in that parameters list, if you go down, you will see that you have Swell and Duck, which, as we discussed earlier, are no longer specific modes in the timeline, but now are options available to you in any mode on the timeline. So we can go ahead and add in a swell. Which can also be very, very cool if you want kind of big, slow, fully wet swells. These are not volume swells. I am not using my pinky to manipulate my guitar. And conversely, you can also add ducking in, which will allow the delay to dip below your playing when you are playing, so that your kind of like main notes stay clear. And these two things actually do work at the same time, which is also nice. You couldn't do a swelling delay that had ducking previously, but now, if you want to, it just opens up some options and sound design flexibility that did not exist in the previous version of this, which is really cool. You can also, of course, change how quickly that duck gets released. Then you have boost and everything else that is universal to the originals. Let's go ahead and press and hold to get out of there. And when we talk about the fact that you have voice for MX and Classic, the one place where that's not objectively true is in that digital delay. So if we go to our digital, we now have voices of 3 different digital delays from the dig: your 24-bit 96 kilohertz, your ADM, and your classic 12-bit, and then the actual classic. So you have access to or that pristine high fidelity. And of course, you have controls like smear for that. But you'll hear with that sound, you don't have just Haas effect. Smear will give you some stereo widening. And then your modulation will further widen it. And as far as updated algorithms, that's broadly what's new. You, of course, also have your, let's get back to our main menu. You, of course, have an updated analog delay as well. Access to both the classic dBucket. Great, gritty, fun analog delay repeats. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the new engines. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these new engines, starting with our drum, which is going to offer maybe the most kind of potent example of this screen's utility as something pretty necessary to the big line, to the Timeline MX. Big line. That's not what this pedal is called. And this might not sound like much of anything, but let's go into head edit. And as you will see, we now have a whole system here allowing us to activate various delay heads for feedback and writing. And then here you have access to panning controls for each of them. So you can kind of move each of these 4 delay heads left and right. And if you're paying attention at home, this is basically giving you the Volante in your timeline. And of course, like with the Volante, you've got your low cut and then you've got your spacing controls. So we've got even distribution right now. Triplets. Golden ratio. And a silver ratio. I mean, this is basically just a full Volante in here. Let's go ahead and get really wild with it. So we've got full playback on all of those. Actually, let's go half full, half full. Feedback on for all of them. And then do one of my favorite little tricks, which is head 1, the fastest head, all the way left. Head 2, halfway left. Head 3, halfway right. Head 4, all the way right. Let's go fully wet. Let's go down and let's turn on that swell that is now available everywhere. I'll take the swell out so you can hear exactly what we're doing here, which is each hit kind of like rainbows from left to right. And again, not to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but if we jump back out to that main menu, add a second engine in series, and make that engine our reverb, super long decay, super short pre-delay. Now we have something worth noting. Let's go ahead and take that big reverb back out. Something worth noting about some of that I was just doing is you'll notice that sometimes my pick attack transient makes it through that swell. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's a nice flawless attack, but if I'm trying to move a little bit quicker, you'll hear a little bit of just the pick itself make it through. And what you'll notice is it's not being caught and reproduced in the delay. That click in many other versions of the auto swell, if your transient accidentally makes it through the open gate, you hear kind of like a ticking, like as it kind of reverberates through the delay repeats. And the timeline doesn't do that, which is very underrated. Speaking of underrated, let's go for some brevity in this video and move on to the next engine. If you are familiar with the Oliveira, the oil can release from Strymon sometime in the last year, you'll probably recognize that they recently did a very good sounding oil can. And guess what? They did. It's an oil can. A good oil can sounds amazing, if not super clear. We now have our multitap, which, much like the drum, is very kind of like Volante coded in its ability to design your own kind of multitap delay play space. Whereas with the drum, you're on kind of a 4-head set. This is its own particular brand of insanity. So you have 8 delay heads that you have access to, as well as a kind of like mixing configurator. So let's go ahead and turn on kind of like 1, 3, 5, 7. And you'll notice that for each of these heads, there's a bunch of information down below. It lets you do things like turn on and off modulation on a delay, on a tap by tap basis. Same thing with cutting brightness, turning the filter on and off. You can set separate subdivisions and separate stereo panning positions and levels per delay. So for this first one, we could go, we want it all the way to the right. Let's go ahead and kind of showcase this a little bit more cleanly, because I think this is one of the really interesting things. So we have our first delay. Let's turn the repeats down on that first delay so we get 1. And then let's go ahead and turn on delay number 2. Let's go ahead and put it, let's change the kind of the step for it. Let's go ahead and give it a lot of repeats. And pan it all the way to the left instead. Change the filter shape, once again, on a per step basis. So let's make this one high passed. Let's go back to the first one and make that one low passed, because, like, you know, we can do whatever we want. Let's give that one a little bit more repeats so that they kind of play into each other a little bit more. And let's jump all the way over here. Set that step way far out. And this one's going to be in the center. It's got modulation. We're going to add some cut. And band pass it. And make this like the loudest one. Make these ones a little bit quieter. And then just turn on a couple random ones to create some added intrigue. Oh, and then go over to here. And over here, you can decide whether your feedback comes from the input or from one of the beats or is in parallel with each other. And of course, you also have access to a bunch of pre-made patterns as well. So you can kind of build your own custom one, or you can go through here and just pick one that already works for you. Let's go to our longest delay time. And of course, within that context, because we're not even done with this mode yet, you have the ability to high pass for thinner repeats. And in turn, you can use your filter, of course, to then darken them up as well. Add grit. And of course, there's also a smear control. So nice, clean, single repeats. Gets very reverberant, and you can of course start dialing in some reverb on there. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and jump over to the last of our new proper delays, the spectral delay, which is going to be basically granular delay. And this is fun because these get replaced not with kind of traditional modulation. You still have your grit control. You still have that filter control for darkening up your repeats. But you now also have these extra controls for things like density, for the size of the individual grains. Let's go into here and turn off so we're in soft right now. And you can kind of harden up or soften up these as you go. There's a swell where instead of just being soft attack and release, it instead kind of swells in. Soft and hard plucks. Hard plucks. And a bounce. Let's stick with soft. We like that one. No high passing. You can kind of like widen out the repeats here. Forward, reverse, or both. It doesn't have to be octaves, it can just be unity. And then, of course, you have a stretch control, which is going to kind of time stretch those out and create strange artifacts in the waveforms. You'll hear, the further out you stretch it, the more broken those repeats sound. And including this in a delay that also has that ice mode is really fascinating because we can kind of go full stretch Let's go reverse only. We've got those soft grain shapes. And then, of course, we've been kind of playing with a wider, longer, more delay-minded repeat, but we can also take that density control up into smaller grains. And then do something really weird, like go series 2 to 1. So second engine is going to feed that engine. So let's do that. And let's take this engine and let's set it to be that ice engine, one of the most underrated things. We're going to go octaves and fifths. We want them to be long slices. Let's go no smear, nice and focused because of what we're doing with them. Wild stuff. Okay, let's turn that second algorithm back off. And let's wrap up this section by taking a look at our reverb. So pretty straightforward. This is your pre-delay. It gets way too long, so I never use it. And let's take that nice and short. You have your decay from nice and short and focused. To medium, kind of like rooms. Take those out. All the way out through. Something fun is you still have grit for this reverb, so we can kind of run a very clean verb. Or you can get weirdly shoegazy with it. Or somewhere in the middle. And then rather than adding modulation, you have a tremolo. And once again, you still have things like the swell and duck controls for this as well. My only real gripes with this reverb, which to be fair to Strymon, is this is not a reverb pedal. This is a kind of bonus mode to give this thing reverb so that it can be kind of your all-in-one or two-in-one delay and reverb station if you need it to be. But the two things I wish you could do is, like I said, as of right now, if I tap in a delay, it affects the pre-delay of the pedal, not the tremolo speed, which is what I wish I could do. So I'm hoping there's an update in the future where I can basically just set it so that this, not the depth, the speed, where this is controlled by the subdivision choice and the tap tempo rather than the pre-delay, which, I mean, once again, who is this for? The world may never know. Okay, let's dig in a little bit to our routing options and some of the stereo image stuff that we have access to with some of the new panning controls. Okay, so we have two dTapes going right now, and we can run them in series. Let's go for similar, kind of vaguely similar sounds across both. Tap tempo in so that we've got rhythmic delays. But what's interesting is you can run them in series like this. You can run them in series the other way. You can run them in parallel. Where they don't interact directly with one another. Or you can run them left and right like this. Which is generally not how I like to do things. So what I want to do, rather than going hard left, hard right, let's go parallel. Make sure this second one is all kind of set up to work roughly the same as our first one. Jump to that first one. Reconfirm that we're basically using all the same settings by just a quick little knob wiggle. And now we can go into our settings and we can scroll down and we can just partially pan each of them. They can pan them hard or just a little bit. So let's go left +3. And pan right +3. Now, you're getting that panning, but you get the exact right amount that you want, not the amount that like hard left and hard right offers. And it offers really weird things too. The fact that you could go, you could keep number 2 in the center, jump over to number 1, pan that one hard left, and then also maybe make that one a spectral delay. Is there a good reason to have your spectral delay be hard left when your other delay is in the dead center? I don't know. I don't know your business. And with that being full wet, you can also then jump back over to parameter number 2, go down to that boost control, and boost that second channel. Again, I don't know what this sound is for, but the fact that you can make it is kind of crazy. Rather than fixing this by going all the way back, let's just go ahead and step to a new preset and go for a more conventional thing. Series 1 into 2. Let's make this our reverb. And like I said, what we're going to do is step over to here, turn off that tap tempo, and then we have our tape delay, dotted eighth. Take that reverb or that pre-delay all the way down. I mean, that is a very usable sound across one device. And you can get, obviously really aggressively ambient with this if you want to use something like that ice mode into that reverb. We can go ahead and do our sub octave, long slices, a blend, add a little bit of smear. And for context, So let's go ahead and wrap things up by taking a look at the looper, but we're not going to get into the entire looper. It is well known already that you have a really full-featured looper in the timeline that can get even better if you use an external MIDI controller for it. The timeline having a good looper is not new to the MX. What is new to the MX, however, is the ability to go in here to our global parameters. Let's go down to our looper location, which is not, once again, a new thing. And let's make it post RFX. We have our looper level, which we're going to leave at unity at full volume. But what's really cool is we have our tap foot switch assignment, which allows us to take our tap tempo and convert it into a single, always present one button looper. And you now have a one switch looper always present on the right side of the timeline. So at any given time, you can just tap that, start recording, tap it again to enter playback, tap it again to enter overdub mode, and then press and hold to erase your loop. Let's do some somewhat wonky looping right now, considering I'm not using my actual foot, but we're going to go ahead, erase the loop back to 0, and give it a try. The lack of straight to overdub is going to be a problem there, but we can go ahead and layer in some other stuff. See, now the break is cool. And now let's do something weird with this. The looper is now in front of our engines again, so we can go ahead . Some very weird, cool stuff you can do there with the one knob looper.